This is my 4-4-6 mix, and it's basically the starting point and the basis of a lot of the routines on this project. What it allows you to do is get to any colour on the cube that the spectator names really quickly, so that the cube looks mixed and just that one colour is solved. But from here, you can get back to a solved cube really, really quickly. And I thought there's got to be a trick in this very concept. And I came up with the principle whilst playing around with F2L algorithms a few years ago. And the trouble was I didn't know how to perform it, because if you were watching it, you'd see exactly what was going on. And then I saw Takami's perform his 1-1-6 routine. I liked the idea of him doing the secret work underneath a cloth. Now, I didn't want to use a cloth and I didn't want to use the bag, because I think the bag's been way overused. I wanted this to be a bit more impromptu without anything else other than the cube. So what I would do is get spectators to hold their hands over the cube as I was doing the secret work, as if I was doing it blind. So I was saying, if you cover it so that I can't even see the cube. And it was okay, but I thought there's got to be something better. Then I saw Henry Harrius posted a video by Evgeny Karalin, I hope I pronounced that correctly, doing this routine where he would get to one spectator's colour, get to another spectator's colour, and then get to the solved cube, and he would do all the secret work behind his back. And I thought, that's genius, that's the way you do it. And I wrote to Evgeny and we talked about different methods. He didn't tell me his method and I didn't tell him mine, but we realised that they were similar but different. And I asked him at the time, I said, are you ever going to release this? And he said, yeah, definitely going to release this soon. Now this was 2 years ago, and I've been really chuffed that I've had this routine that I've kind of known about that's impromptu. I've been dying to know Evgeny's actual method. So I'm really looking forward to the day where he actually does release it. Now, I had no intentions of releasing this effect, because me having a slightly different method doesn't bring anything new to the actual concept itself. However, I sent Kev a video about a year ago of me doing this routine. He loved it, and we started coming up with all these ideas. There were so many ideas, in fact, that this is how this project has come about. So the idea was not to copy Evgeny's principle, but to take it further, to really build on the concept that he'd sort of come up with, and the concept of the 4-4-6 mix. So let's have a look how to do the 4-4-6 mix a little bit closer, and I'll tell you the actual principle behind what you're actually doing. Starting with the yellow on top and the blue in front, the spectator has chosen the colour white, which goes on the bottom. The basic concept is that you take these two pieces on the front right and exchange them for the two pieces on the back left. These two pieces with the two pieces on the opposite corner over here. Which, once you perform the algorithm, looks like this, with the green and orange pieces now in front, and the blue and red are now at the back. Starting with the yellow on top and blue in front, your right hand starts with an R move, followed by a U move, then R prime, followed by a U prime, which, as you can see, has taken the two pieces out and placed them on top. Next, to get the opposite two pieces out, you simply do an L move, which puts the opposite two pieces on top of the cube. To swap these two pieces over, simply perform a U2. Next, to slot the red and blue back in, simply perform an L prime. And as you can see, the white side is almost restored, apart from the orange and green pieces we need to slot in here. This is done with an R prime, F, R, F prime. Then you need to do a U prime, which will allow you to do the same algorithm again to get back to your solved state. Although the cube now looks kind of mixed, you still have these big blocks of orange and blue and red and green. So, by misaligning the top two layers by 1, which is a small U prime move, note the lightning on the right hand side on top as a reference point, but now the whole cube looks completely mixed aside from the white on the bottom. To get back to a solved cube, look for the lightning bolt top right as your reference point. Perform a small U. This aligns the big blocks and puts the lightning on the bottom. Now all you need to do is perform the algorithm again from the start. R, U, R prime, U prime, which brings the two pieces to the top. An L brings the opposite pieces back up, U2 to swap the pieces, then L prime will put two of the pieces back in. And this corrects most of the white on the bottom. Finally, to put the last two pieces back in, perform an R prime, F, R, F prime, and a U prime will set the cube back to its solved state. So that was the algorithm broken down, and hopefully you now also understand what you're actually doing when you're doing these moves. Now I'm going to give you a technique that speed cubers use with long algorithms to help them learn them really quickly. And that's just a case of breaking these long moves down into lots of short moves. This will not only help you learn it quickly, it will also help with your muscle memory as far as your hand movements go. So check it out, I think you'll find this useful. With blue in front and yellow on top, your first four moves are R, U, R prime, U prime. The next four moves are L, U, 2, L prime, which corrects most of the white. Now to slot these two pieces into the front corner, R prime, F, R, F prime. And an extra U prime move, which puts the lightning on the bottom. Finally, perform a little U prime to make the cube look mixed, apart from the white on the bottom. To get back to the solved state, reverse the last move by doing a little U, then the entire algorithm starts again with R, U, R prime, U prime, L, U2, L prime, R prime, F, R, F prime, and finish off with a U prime. Again, but to make this faster, we'll do it as numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the misalignment move is 6. To get back to the solved state, undo move 6 and then start again at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. a good way of getting this algorithm faster is to perform it right up until just before the alignment move, and then just perform the algorithm again. Keep repeating this over and over. You should aim to get this algorithm as fast as you can, and to the point where you no longer need to count, so that you are doing it without thinking about it. If you solve the cube using F2L, then these moves should be quite familiar to you anyway. If you don't, then I'm just going to run over a few things which might help you and give you a better understanding of cubing in general, and might help you to take things further with this, which I highly recommend. The first move you do, the RU, R prime, U prime, which puts these two pieces from here on top of the cube there, that is known as the sexy move, and that is the most common move in cubing. Hands down, once you start getting into solving the cube in different ways, that is one of the most common moves you'll come across, and it's a really useful move to practice over and over again, because it actually, if you do it 6 times, it rotates itself back to the start. You can do it on the right hand side, you can do it on the left hand side, you can even do it from the back. And there you go. Oh, no, too far. So it's a really useful move to learn and practice quickly, and gets your muscle memory for your hands really quick. Then the second move is the swap over move. There's no term for that, but to get this move back into the corner in front, the opposite corner, to get that in, you don't use a sexy move or a backward sexy move, you actually use a move called the sledgehammer, which is another way of getting these two pieces into this slot. And I think the reason it's called a sledgehammer is because it sort of comes down and then gives it and then swings like that. And it's another really, really cool move, and another one you'll find a lot in cubing. So once you've got to that stage where you've swapped the two pieces over, you do the extra move. And this is what I never used to do. I used to then just misalign the cube and then go backwards. So when I taught it to Kev, he learnt it wrong, and he did an extra move. So once he'd switched the two pieces over, he just did an extra U prime move. And that U prime move changes everything. It means that you don't have to do this algorithm backwards. You can actually just do the same algorithm again, and it takes you back into the same position. And this is where the lightning is lying down the bottom, because the way I used to finish was with the lightning on my left hand side, and but with it lying down on the bottom, you can just do the same algorithm back, the sexy move plus the sledgehammer, and then as long as you end up like this, and as long as you do that extra U prime move, that puts you back into that solved cube. So that was an accident that was really, really exciting. I think Kev's an absolute genius for discovering this, even though it was accidental. It was one of those boom revelation moments that we were just elated once we found that, proper geeking out. So yes, that's why you only ever have to learn one algorithm, and it's thanks to Kev's mistake. So I think this is just such a useful algorithm, and actually Kev's looked into different algorithms that get to this move, and in terms of there's this computer program that actually allows you to work out the moves to this point, and the moves are longer. So we worked out that we were actually cleverer than a computer. So take that. So anyway, hopefully that's given you a bit more knowledge on cubing and how these moves relate to each other in cubing terms. So on with the next part. So you can do your 4-4-6 mix really quickly and without thinking about it. How do you start performing the routine, and how do you get to the individual colours? Well, here's what I do. Of course, you know that to start with, the colour that the spectator names has to be on the bottom of the cube underneath, so this side here. So let's say the spectator names red, I get red to the bottom, do the mix, and now red is the only solved side. But how do you get to the next spectator's colour? Well, here's my colour code. I start by looking on top, and whatever colour the lightning is, so in this case orange, if the spectator names orange, I know that once I've done the 4-4-6 mix back to my solved state, I know that I've got to turn the cube upside down, and then I do the 4-4-6 mix again, and then orange will be the solved side. If the spectator names any other colour, I look around the cube, and what I'm looking for is this bottom row, this one here, and I'm looking at the double blocks of colours. So in this case I've got white to my right, in front is blue, over here is yellow, and in front of me over here is green. And that determines where the next colour is going to end up. So let's say in this case the spectator's named yellow, for instance. So yellow's on my left hand side, yellow is the block over here to my left, so that once I do the 4-4-6 mix, yellow is going to be over here, so I turn yellow to the bottom, do the 4-4-6 mix, and then yellow is the only solved colour. So it's as easy as that. So let's say the spectator name's white. So I look on top and I see my lightning is white. So I know that, again, I do the 4-4-6 mix, and white is on top, turn that underneath, do the 4-4-6 mix, and white is my only solved colour. I'll do one more. Let's say the spectator name's blue, which is the colour in front of me. It's the colour that I can't see. So I tend to, you could look around and go, right, let me just study the colours for a sec. But if you don't want to, if you want to make it look less obvious like you're looking for something, you just know, or by quickly looking around the cube like this as you're talking, that blue is the only colour that you can't see. So I've got green in front, orange on this side, red on this side, and yellow on top. So blue is the only colour I can't see. So it's going to be, so the blue is going to end up over here. So as you'll notice, when I finish, blue's over here, so I turn blue to the bottom, do the 4-4-6 mix, and blue is my only solved colour. So that's how you get to the individual colours. Now I'm going to show you how you can start to do this behind your back. So your final challenge is being able to do everything you've just learnt behind your back. And if you've got this far, this part really isn't that hard. In fact, I often tell my spectators that this is really hard because I'm doing it behind my back and my hands are in a different position. And that's actually a total lie, because your hands are actually in exactly the same position, just behind your back. So let me just try and get to the first colour, and just like that, the entire cube is mixed and we've got white. The hard part is getting to the second spectator's colour, because you're doing twice as many moves. And the way I do this, I would say, let's say the spectator's chosen blue in this case. I'll put the cube behind my back, and I'll put it behind my back with my right hand as I go behind. And it's obviously useful to be able to talk whilst you're doing this, because it helps to misdirect, and for me it keeps the flow going quite well. When I produce the cube, I do it from the left hand side, and I come out and just show the mixed cube, because in your audience's mind all they see is a mixed cube at this point. So when you then reveal this, it's a proper boom moment, it's a proper revelation. So that's the way you do it. So I come out and go, look, the entire cube is mixed apart from blue. And that's how I suggest you do it. Now, of course, when you put it behind your back, you don't have to talk. I did say that just now, but I prefer to do that nowadays. But when I started, I would ask for silence. I would say, let me see if I can do this in under 20 seconds to get to your colour. And I'll then put it behind my back, and I would just do that in silence by looking up in the air. And that works as well. Maybe that even strengthens the routine, because people can see how hard it is, and because you're emphasizing how hard it is, they'll feel it's more impossible. So the final thing I should mention is that obviously the way I did this just now is I started from a solved cube, And if you start from a solved cube, I would suggest you ask a spectator to name any colour or to think of any colour, put the cube behind your back, and then start to mix it to that first named colour. But don't ask for the colour until you've put the cube behind your back, because I think if you hold it out like this and then the spectator names their colour, I think some of the impact is lost. However, I don't normally do it from a solved cube. I would normally do this from a mixed cube, which for me seems a little bit more impossible and kind of makes more sense. In fact, both Kev and I do exactly that, but we do it slightly differently. Kev, for instance, he starts off with a mixed cube, and you can put it in your 2112 stack or the cube card stack. Put it up behind your back and start to unmix it as you just sort of say, and you just name blue, and then you unmix it behind your back and then go into it. Now Kev puts the cube behind his back and then asks for the colour, whereas I do it the other way around. I'll have the cube mixed or apparently mixed and then say name your first colour, and they'll say blue, and then you look around. I tend to look around the cube, say right, blue. I'm going to try and get to blue behind my back, and as I say that, I'm unmixing the cube halfway. So I've done 2112 once. I can then turn around and say, look, there is only one cube behind my back, and show them this side, because this is the most mixed side of the 2112 mix, and then do the final 2112 behind my back, and then start to go to whatever colour they've asked for. And this is all about knowing your colours, so that's the important thing. And I talk about knowing your colours a lot more in the free section of our website, which is the level up part, so check that out. And that's really all I can tell you about the 446 mix. So I hope this has all made sense. If you have any questions, obviously write to us on our website, but I think once you start to play with this, you'll realise how versatile it is, but how strong an effect this is, because I think it's the ultimate impromptu cube effect, because you can ask a spectator for a colour, you can get to that colour, and then you have that solb kicker at the end. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. So here's a bonus challenge for you, and this is being able to do the 446 mix behind your back with one hand. And here's Kev to show you how to do that.
One thing I think is really nice is if you're going to perform 446 and you've asked for a colour and you put the cube behind your back, you can do this one-handed. So let's say, for example, that white has been chosen or named. So this is what it's going to look like. And that's going to get me to my 446 stack with white on the bottom. So let's have a look at how to do that step by step. So let's just imagine I've got into my cube card stack and I've just offset the top two layers. So the cube's going to go behind my back. I'm going to get back into my cube card stack. I'm going to solve the cube. I'm then in my boy orientation, so blue, orange, yellow. So when the audience member names a colour, obviously one-handed, I can then rotate to that colour. So let's say they say white. So behind my back, one-handed, I'm going to make sure white's on the bottom. I can then go into my one-handed 446. So what I actually do is rotate the cube slightly to this angle, because if I keep it straight like this, it's going to be difficult for my finger to get underneath. So I'm going to rotate it slightly so that it's easy to move this layer. So 1, and then I rotate a little bit, 2, rotate a little bit, 3, and 4. So that's the first 4 moves, and then my next 4 moves, I'm going to rotate the cube a little bit again to go 1, 2, 3, and then it's going to be my ring finger this time, do that 4th move. And then this is the kind of trickier bit, I guess, because this row is in the way of my thumb. So I'm going to use my index finger to push down and go 1, and then re-grip here, and my thumb on the bottom, 2, re-grip again and rotate, 3, re-grip again, 4, and then the last 2 moves I'm going to be using my index finger and I'm going to be pushing away like this to do 5, and then the ring finger again to do 6, and that's going to get me into the 4-4-6 stack. Now this really is just going to be about practice, and I guess you'll find your own way of doing this. So when I wanted to do it, I kind of just found out myself how I would need to rotate the cube so that I had space to be able to do each of the moves. Just like that. So as I said, it's a little bit knacky, but definitely possible. And as you see, it doesn't actually take that long to do. So if you did want to add that extra element into your routine where you're going to do it behind your back, and then you can either obviously bring it out and display your solve to that colour, or one-handed you can go into the stealth solve or the DT solve, then I mean that's a possibility as well. Now when I do 4-4-6 behind my back, the easiest way that I've found to remember it so I don't make mistakes is that I count 4-4-6. So I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like that to get me into my 4-4-6 stack. So whatever method is going to help you. Now the one thing that I will point out is I think that the hardest part is the first 4 moves. It's just remembering that with one hand you are going to go up and then to the left and then down and then to the right. I've just found that those 4 moves seem to be the trickier to remember, and then the next moves just seem to be easier for me to remember what I'm doing. In this section of the tutorial, I'm going to teach you step by step the cube cards stack as taught on my release cube cards. Now, I use this all of the time, and in fact, there's other products on the market that require a stack, and I'll use this stack with those because I think it's just really simple to do and really easy to remember. So this is what the stack looks like, and I hope you'll agree that the cube looks really nice and mixed. But in fact, I'm only 8 moves away from getting back to my solved cube. And that is made up of using the 2-1-1-2 move twice. So 2-1-1-2, I'm now 4 moves away, and I can do that again back to my solved cube. Now, I can't take credit for this method. This is the work of the Japanese magician Takami's Usui, and he released a DVD called The Cube where he detailed a number of different one-handed techniques in order to do just that. And I definitely recommend having a look at that because he's got some other great ideas and great ways to solve the cube on that project as well. If you stick his name into Google, you'll also find plenty of other releases that he's put out, as well as a couple of penguin lectures which have got hours worth of content, and he just crams in so many ideas and tips to do with the cube. I definitely think that's essential watching. Now, this mix really underpins a lot of the stuff that is on this project along with the 4-4-6 mix. So I definitely recommend you spend the time to learn this properly. Now, you might be thinking at this point, well, I've learned a different variation of this mix. And that's fine. You can use that in this project. The teachings, and when I go through step by step, are going to be using the 2-1-1-2 mix. But that doesn't mean you can't adapt what you do already to the stuff that's on the project. Now, in my opinion, I think even if you have learned something else, it's worth spending the time and learning the 2-1-1-2 mix, which isn't going to take you very long at all, because I just think it's the easiest and most effective version out there. So let's go on and we'll have a look at how to perform this step by step. Okay, so this is the cube cards stack, and I'm sure you'll agree this looks really nice and mixed. But in fact, the cube is only 8 moves away from being solved, and that 8 moves consist of using Takamiz's 2-1-1-2 move repeated twice. So if I do 2-1-1-2, 2-1-1-2, I'm going to get back to my solved cube. Now, what's really nice about this is it's exactly the same moves that get you into the mix as get you out of the mix. And you'll notice that I can either do this with 2 hands, or I could do this one-handed as well, which makes this really versatile. So let's have a look at each of those steps in detail. Okay, so with the white facing and the red on top, my thumb is going to be placed just in between these 2 cubelets here, and my middle finger is going to be placed on the back of this bar. Now, it's worth pointing out at this stage that this bar never actually gets mixed the entire time. So if I put my fingers like this, and I'm just going to do my cube card stack and rotate here, and you'll see this bar is still in place. It's not been mixed. So let's just get back to my starting position. So the first move is going to be a small U move. It's a 2-layer move. So with my thumb in between these 2 cubelets and my middle finger on this back bottom right cubelet, I'm just going to use my index finger to perform a small U move. Now, it's called a small U because a normal U would just be 1 layer, but a small U is 2 layers like that. So I would suggest practicing holding the cube in this position and then just performing that move over and over again until you're confident that you can keep the cube still and move the layers around. Once you've got that down, we'll move on to the next stage. So the second move is going to be an L prime move. So this is the left hand layer and it's going to be going anti-clockwise, which is why it's called an L prime. So it's going to be that. Now, what I suggest is to practice this is holding the cube in the same position. This time you're going to be using your ring finger and it's going to be connecting on the back of the left hand layer, and it's just going to be pushing forward to rotate that layer up like that. So now you've got those 2 moves. The way that you can start practicing this is to do your 2 layers 4 times and then your left hand layer 4 times to get back to the solved cube. And you can just keep doing this until you've got those 2 moves nice and smooth. So the third move is going to be an easy one for you. Now you've done the small U move, because this time we're just going to be performing a U, which is just the upper layer on top that's going to be going round clockwise. Now, one thing I will mention is when you come to perform the 1 move, so let's just do the 2-1 that we've already learned. My thumb at this point is going to release pressure from here and it's going to pivot here a little bit, and the pad is just going to move over into this position. So when I use my index finger to perform the one layer you move, it doesn't accidentally move those 2 layers. So let's just reverse back. So the way that I practice this is, as before, do those 2 layers, and then you're going to move your thumb to here to do the 1 layer. So just to go through that again, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, and then you're just going to regrip and do 1, 1, 1, 1. If you've got that, you're then onto the 4th and final stage. Okay, so the 4th move is going to be a small L prime. So this time we're going to be moving those 2 layers on the left hand side anti-clockwise like that. And you'll see I'm using my ring finger again to move those 2 layers. So it's worth starting just by practicing doing that move first, but just note that my thumb has now moved all the way over onto this layer to give clearance for those 2 layers to move. So let's have a go at doing all those 4 moves together without actually mixing the cube. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. My thumb regrips, 1, 1, 1, 1. My thumb is going to move again slightly to do 2, 2, 2, 2. So that is a really good way to practice without actually mixing the cube up. When you're confident with all of those, you can then string them all together and practice doing the 4 moves. That's then going to get you into cube cards, and I'm going to do those again to undo. So this bar that I mentioned earlier that doesn't move, this is going to be where you're going to rotate and pivot the cube. So let's just get back into my cube cards mix. Now what's going to happen in order for me to do this again is we're going to pivot on this bar. So we're going to rotate like that. So this bar is still staying on the bottom left hand side, but it's just rotating round. So rather than having the white cublet facing me, it's going to be the yellow, and this is going to be my starting position then to perform exactly the same moves to get me back to my solved cube. Now the other really interesting thing about this move is because it's mirrored, so you're doing 2, 1 and then 1, 2, it makes it that this is cyclical. And what I mean by that is you can carry on doing the 2, 1, 1, 2 move 18 times and it's going to take you back to the solved cube. So this is a really nice way to practice doing this one-handed. So if I do 2, 1, 1, 2, and if I just keep doing this, when I get to do it, when I've done it 9 times, the cube is going to look solved apart from 2 pieces like this. So I'm halfway through now, and if I carry on another 9 times, this is going to take me back to my solved cube, just like that. Okay, so that's a really nice way to practice. Now, even if you do make a mistake, then I would suggest I'm just going to grab a different cube here quickly, even if it's in a different mix. So let me just give this mix up. Let's imagine I have made a mistake. Well, it doesn't really matter because you can still practice doing these moves to try and get them down as muscle memory without actually getting back to solved. So even if you do mess it up, I would suggest just carrying on practicing doing these moves because that's going to really help you. So as I've mentioned previously, you can do this mix two-handed. Now, this is the way that I would suggest mixing the cube, particularly if you're going to do it in front of your audience, because you do not want to let them know that you're able to mix the cube one-handed. So let's get back to my start position. So I've got white on the face and red on top. and my right hand is going to be gripping the cube in exactly the same way, but my left hand, my thumb is going to be on the bottom with my fingers on top of the left hand layer. So I'm going to do 2, 1, 1, 2, and then again 2. Notice that I'm not gripping on the top here. 1, 1, and then I'm going to extend my fingers out a little bit at the back to do 2. Now the other really key move that you're going to want to learn is the one-handed rotation. Now this is going to become important because when we get into our cube cards mix, rather than you rotating the cube like this, you can simply do it in one hand. And back into the mix, and then out of the mix. Now, in order to do this, you're going to be in your starting position, and once you've done your mix, your index finger is going to come across your thumb. It's going to grip on the cube whilst your thumb releases pressure. You're then going to rotate these in between your fingers, and your thumb's going to come back across and re-grip the cube like that. So let's just do that again. I'm now 4 moves away because I've got my block here and my block here. So I can do my 2-1-1-2 move to get me back to my start position. So I would suggest just starting with a solved cube and just doing this rotation move like that. Now, it might be worth doing this over a bed or a carpet or something, because you may drop this the first few times, and I find trying to do it slowly is actually harder than just doing it quickly like this. Now, if you've been watching this tutorial and thinking, but I am left-handed, well, don't fret, because you can still do this mix, though it's going to be slightly different. So you'll notice when I'm doing my right hand, I'm doing my 2 moves, so these 2 layers are moving. So if you're left-handed, your start position is going to be slightly different, because you're going to want white on the face and blue on top. So you're also going to do a 2 move, but you're going to be performing the 2 move from the bottom like that, and then 1, 1, 2. So again, 2, 1, 1, 2, and that is going to get you back into the cube cards stack. But just remembering that you're going to start from this position rather than right-handed being here. You're just going to rotate the cube to this start position so that you can do your 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2 to get back to your solved cube. So play around with that, and you'll be able to apply that then to all of the other parts and routines used in this project. So there is actually an advanced algorithm to get into the cube card stack without performing any rotations. Now the starting position is slightly different because we're going to want green on the face and orange on top. Now an easy way to remember this is to remember the word go, because we've got G for green and O for orange. Now the mix looks like this, and you'll see it didn't require me to rotate the cube at all, and I can get back to my solved cube. So let's have a look at the steps required to get into that mix. So again, with the green on the face and the orange on top, we're going to do a U, R prime, D, L prime, B, U prime, F, D prime. Let's have another go at that again. So go, green, orange, U, R prime, D, L prime, B, U prime, F, D prime to get me into my cube cards stack. Now, the more you practice this, the faster and more fluid you're going to get, and you'll start to feel the moves connect together. So you'll see from me doing it, it sort of just flows around each side, and it's really easy to do. Once you've had a play around, you'll feel these moves just flow together so you can get straight into that stack. So if you like the look of that and you think this would be a nice thing to learn, then feel free to do so. It's not essential, but I do use it myself, and I really like the fact that I'm doing different moves than what I'm going to be doing to when I solve the cube. In this section, I'm going to talk you through the gravitational solve. Now, this isn't actually a full solve of the cube. We're just going to be solving 3 sides, but it's going to give the illusion to your audience that the entire cube has been solved. Now, this concept has been explored by others before, most notably Tom Crosby and Rune Clan, who came up with this premise and called it the drop solve, and also Stephen Brundage, who included it in his AGT performance when he did it on television. So what's new here? Well, a number of things. Firstly, this algorithm is the shortest possible algorithm to get into it, and this was devised by a South African magician called Charles Dubber, and it's the shortest possible route, and it also allows you to not have to rotate the cube before you show the cube mix. Like if you look on YouTube, you might come across a similar algorithm, but it's just all wrong because it puts you in totally the wrong position. The other thing is that the algorithm that I'm going to teach you is going to get you straight into the 2-1-1-2 stack. So you can be ready, perform the 2-1-1-2, go straight into this solve and get back out of it in the same way. And that's the other thing. You're going to be learning an algorithm that gets you into this mix, and it's exactly the same algorithm to get you out. So let me show you a few variations of what this is going to look like. So this is what the gravitational mix looks like. And you'll see that it looks really complicated, but this is not going to take you long to learn at all. Now I've mixed up the cube and you'll see it looks really nice and mixed, but I've actually mixed it ready to perform 2-1-1-2. So if I perform 2-1-1-2, you see that's going to take me straight into displaying a mixed cube. Now from this position, you've got a number of options of how you can solve the cube. You could, like Stephen Brundage and Tom Crosby do, is drop it and display your solved cube, or you could display the mixed cube and do what I call the anti-gravity solve. So it's going to, a little bit like a muscle pass, it's going to seemingly float up into your hand into this position. And if you practice enough, you can do it without actually looking at the cube. You can just be looking at your audience and you know where that cube's going to land, and you can be in this position to display. The other way that I think looks really nice is tossing the cube from one hand to the other. So if you display like this and then you toss to your other hand and it's seemingly solved. Now the brilliant thing about this version is that once you have done the solve and you're in this position, you can go straight back into the gravitational mix, and that's going to take you back into your 2-1-1-2 stack. You might recognize these blocks here. So from here, you can do another instant solve. So I'm just going to do a quick shake solve that's going to get me straight back to the solved cube. So I'm sure once you learn this, you might come up with other ways in which you can display the solved cube, but they're the three that I like the most. So let's get into it. Now, as you've seen, the gravitational solve is a three-sided solve of the cube. So if I'm holding the cube with the white facing, I've got the red on top, I've got yellow on the back, and I've got blue on the left-hand side. Now, these are the three colours that are going to remain solved at the end of the gravitational mix. So if I hold the cube like this and I perform the gravitational mix, I can get to this position where I can now perform my 2-1-1-2, and this is going to get me, so I've got three sides of the cube which are mixed and three sides which are solved. So I can display this to the audience being mixed, and when I'm ready I can perform a gravitational solve. So let's imagine I've just performed that, and that has left me in this position. Now once I'm in this position, you'll notice that there's this white X on the left hand side. Now this might be a different colour depending on the different colour orientation of the cube, but this is then going to be facing me, so I can perform the gravitational mix again, and once I've performed that, I'm into my 2-1-1-2 stack again to get back to a solved cube. So let me talk you through that in a little bit more detail. So this time with the white facing, I've got blue on top, I've got yellow on the back, and I've got orange on the left hand side. So these are the three colours that are going to be solved. So if I perform my gravitational mix, that has then got me to this position, and you'll notice I've got a bar here across the top, just like you have a bar when performing 2-1-1-2. So my thumb is going to come at the end of this bar on the right hand side, and I'm just going to rotate the cube around so that this bar ends up in the bottom right hand corner. Now when I've got it in the bottom right hand corner, you'll notice I've got this like L shape on the top, and this is in position for me to perform 2-1-1-2. Now when I perform 2-1-1-2, it's going to solve the top, the back, and the left hand side. So what I want to make sure that I do is I just rotate my hand slightly like that, so that the audience are going to see these three sides as being mixed. I don't want to have my hand like this because I'm going to flash a solved side. So let me just rotate slightly to start. I'm going to do 2-1-1-2, and that has put me into this position, and you'll see that my audience are just seeing the mixed side. Now from this position, there's one more thing we need to do before we do the gravitational solve, and that is to rotate the cube slightly. And what I mean by that is that this side, the blue side, is going to go into my palm. Now the way to do this is to get your index finger and to put it on this corner. My middle finger's on this corner, but you could use any finger, and you're just going to rotate the cube like that. And by doing that, your audience is just still going to be seeing a mixed cube. But this is important because it means after you do the gravitational solve, it's going to put you in the perfect position just to go straight back into it to be able to get yourself out. So let's imagine I've performed the gravitational solve, and the cube has now ended up in this position where the audience is now seeing three sides of a solved cube, but they are given the impression that it's all solved. Now you'll see I've got on my left hand side here this X, and this is what I am looking for because this is now going to be facing me before I perform the gravitational mix again. So when I come over to grab the cube, my hand is going to grab it here, and my hand's going to be covering this left hand side. The X is now facing me, and I'm going to perform the gravitational mix again. You'll see there's my bar again. I'm going to put my thumb at the end. It's going to rotate around, and this time you'll notice the blocks, because I'm now 4 moves away from a solved cube, and you can perform any instant solve you want from this mix. So if I do 2, 1, 1, 2, you'll see I've now got back to my solved cube. So let's have a look at the algorithm to perform the gravitational mix. So let's just run through the algorithm for the gravitational mix. Now, I've got white facing me, which means blue is on top, I've got yellow on the back and orange on the left. So these 3 sides are going to be the sides that remain solved at the end. Now, before I start showing you this mix, I can appreciate this is going to look quite long and difficult to remember, but in the next video I go through some really good tips and tricks to help you remember this, and it's exactly the way that I memorized it in order to remember how to do all of the mixes. But I've done it so many times now it's just become muscle memory. So let's have a look at this algorithm then. So the first move is a B prime, a U, a D, L, D prime 2, B, L, D prime 2, R prime, U2, L, U, F prime, and D prime 2. So that has now got me into this position, and you'll see I've got the bar at the top. So my thumb is going to connect on the right hand side. It's going to pivot and rotate around, so this bar ends up in the bottom right hand side here. I've got my L shape, so I'm in the position now to perform 2 1 1 2, which is going to get me ready to perform the gravitational solve. And I just need to make sure I rotate my hand slightly, and then I'm going to go 2 1 1 2, and my audience are now seeing the mixed cube. The one last thing I need to do is to make sure I rotate the cube so blue is on my palm. So I'm going to use my middle finger and my index finger, and I'm just going to rotate it around so that my audience still see a mixed cube. I can now perform the gravitational solve in whichever way you choose. So my cube is going to end up in this position, and the reason why we did that rotation is so that we end up in the position so we can just go straight back into the gravitational mix again. So my hand's going to come over, the X is facing me. I'm going to do all of the moves now so that I can go back into my gravitational mix. Here's my bar again. I'm going to rotate around. I'm now in my 2 1 1 2 stack, and I can get back to my solved cube. So I'm hoping you've just watched that last video and you've come straight onto this video to look at the method that I use to help memorize the gravitational mix. Now, what I did was I wrote down all of the notation onto paper, and I then tried to make words from the notation and then make that into a sentence. So the sentence that I came up with was bud, lad, bladder, and you love it. So in my head I was imagining a guy who you would call Bud, who was like a mate or something, but he was a bit of a lad, and he drank a lot, so he had problems with his bladder, and then someone just saying, oh, you love it. Okay, so that was the sentence. It sounds really silly, but I think the sillier it is, the more likely you're going to remember it. So if this works for you, please use it. If you want to come up with your own sentence, then do that as well. So first thing that I'm going to remember is bud. Now I just need to remember that the first move is actually not just a B move, it's a B prime. So you could remember the word blood if you wanted to, but just remember you're not doing an L move at this moment. So bud, so I'm going to do B prime, U, and then D. The next word was lad, so L. There's no A move, but I can do a double D. But as I said, because my fingers are in this position, it's going to be a double D prime. My next word is bladder. So B, L, there's no A, but there is two D's. So I'm going to do D prime, so D, D, there's no E, but there is an R, but I just need to remember this is actually an R prime move. And then you love it is actually you love it. I just need to remember it's a double U, so U, love is L, U, and it's actually an F, but it's an F prime, so F prime, and then the last two moves is a double D, but I do D prime because my finger's in the nice position to do that. And that has now got me into my position to perform my 2-1-1-2. I just need to remember I'm going to rotate it so this bar is in the bottom right hand corner and I've got my L shape on the top. So I'm now going to do 2-1-2. I'm going to rotate my hand slightly, 2-1-1-2. This side, the blue side, is going to go into my palm, so my middle finger on this corner, my index finger on this corner, and rotate. I can then perform my gravitational solve. I've got my X here, so I re-grip, and I'm going to do exactly the same now. So if you remember, it was bud, but it's a B prime, so B prime, U, D, lad, L, there's no A, but D, D. The next word is bladder, B, L, no A, D, D, no E, but I just need to remember it's an R prime, and then you love it, so U, U, L, U, F prime, and then D, D. I can now rotate again. You'll notice I've got my blocks ready to do 2-1-1-2, so now you can do any visual solve using the 2-1-1-2 stack and get back to your solved cube. So hopefully now you know that secret. Actually, it makes it really easy to remember that notation for the gravitational mix. Now I just want to go over a couple of common errors that you might make when practicing this. So let's get back into the gravitational mix stack. So the first thing you might do is forget to do this rotation and go straight into the solve. Okay, so let's imagine you've done that, you've gone straight into the solve, and then you've noticed you've not gone X and you forgot to rotate the cube. Now, if this happens, don't worry, because you can get out of this. All you need to do is you're going to now rotate the cube onto your left hand. Okay, so you're just going to do the opposite. So this time, again, I've got the two corners, but I'm going to rotate the cube into my left hand this time, and you'll see I've now got back my X, and exactly the same before. You can go back into your gravitational mix and get back into your 2-1-1-2 stack to get back to solved. Okay, so that is the first thing you might do, and there's a quick solution, so don't worry if that happens. So following on from that last tip, let's say for example you do your gravitational mix, you do 2 on 1 2, you do your gravitational solve, but you've forgotten to do the rotation into the palm. So let's say you've now displaying your solved cube and you forget the tip where you can rotate the opposite way to get this X back. Let's say you just go straight back into your gravitational mix and you're going to rotate. Now you'll know at this point you forgot to do that rotation because you've got a block here but you've not got your block here. So this is a good indication that something's not right. So if I do 2 on 1 2 now, you'll see that we've got a problem here because we've got these 3 pieces which are in the wrong order. All right, but if you are practicing, and this is for practicing only, what you can do is if you do your rotation now and do your gravitational solve, that'll put you into this position. If you do your gravitational mix again and then come around to do 2 1 1 2, you'll see that I've now got back to 3 mixed sides and my 3 solved sides. So from this position you can do your gravitational solve. You'll notice your X, your X is here, okay? So you're gonna want to make sure you rotate so the X is facing you, and you can now do the gravitational mix again. And you'll see you've now got back to 2 on 1 2 and back to a solved cube. Now I'm not recommending you do that in performance. Hopefully you will have practiced enough so you don't make that mistake. But if you are practicing and do that, then it's a nice little exercise to get back to your solved cube without actually having to solve that last layer. It's useful for practice reasons to go back and sort out your mistake. So hopefully those tips have been really useful for you.
Nowadays, everything's about your PB, your personal best. Now, when I started solving the cube, my personal best was about 15 minutes. Over the years, I've managed to get a bit quicker, and nowadays, I can do it with just one hand. So I think you'll agree that this cube is quite well mixed, but that's now my PB. 1 second with one hand. So that was the transformer solve, and you'll probably recognise the movement because it's my adaptation of Akira and JC's gear solve. Now, and which can be found on Henry Harris's Venom cube. And it's one of my favourite solves because it has so many things going for it. It's done out in the open with no cover at all, and you do it in one shake, and in that one shake, you're moving 3 parts, which I just find fascinating. So I think it's genius, and I do it out all the time, even now. But I did it on Instagram, and obviously the problem with Instagram is people stop it, slow it down, and they can pause it at certain points. So some people noticed this solid line, and some people commented on it, and it just bugged me a little bit. So I thought, how can I get rid of the line? So what I did, I added an extra move. So now from the front, it looks like that. And you've got to do one extra move at the end, which I'll explain in a moment. But the The only other problem I had with it is this point, it looks really nice from the front, but it doesn't look so good from the top and from the sides. So on the top you've got this green block, on the sides you've got this blue block, and from here you've got this red block, and underneath doesn't look very good either. So by doing an extra, from my point of view, an L move, all of a sudden now I can properly show the cube looking really rather mixed. And what's nice, it looks quite randomly mixed. There's not many of these double colours which you had. I mean, you've still got them, a few there, but there are a few less on this mix. So what I'm able to do now, I'm able to show the cube like that, and then I undo that last move that I did with this third finger as I'm showing the cube like that. So that bigger motion covers that smaller motion of undoing the move. So at this point, so they've seen this really mixed cube, I undo that move, so from the front it still looks mixed, and now I can do my gear solve. Sorry, now I can now I can do my transformer solve. So and the extra move that I've added, because the gear solve, as you undo the last move, it's with your third finger. Now as I undo that, I've still got my first finger free to corner cut that last piece across like that. So and that's how you want to try and do it. You can do it separately, so you can do that part and then that part, but you're in danger of being spotted at this point. So that's why I think if you can sort of almost corner cut it, that last move, I think it looks better, or it looks, or you can do it quicker. So that's the transformer solve. Let's have a closer look at it. So let's take a look at the algorithm for the transformer solve. Starting with our usual blue in front and yellow on top, perform U prime, little l, the thumb pushes the top layer with another U prime. Finally, my third finger pushes the bottom layer forwards with a D prime. Now from the front, the cube looks pretty well mixed and there are no lines. And as I said earlier, facing me I have a red line. On top you have this big green square, and on the other side you have the blue line, and underneath doesn't look great either. To make this look much more mixed, I simply do an extra L, and just doing that move makes all the difference. And now you can see there are no squares or lines on this side, no squares or lines on this side either. The front obviously hasn't changed, and it also looks fine on this side. In fact, the only two sides that don't look as mixed is this side here. Because of the line, I simply avoid showing the bottom. And as I turn the cube, I can cover one of the red pieces with my finger like this. To the audience, all they can see is this. It doesn't matter if they get a quick flash, but just keep turning the cube so that all your audience sees are different colours. You can show every single side, but try and avoid showing the bottom. After you've shown the cube all around, you need to undo the extra turn. Your third finger pushes the left layer towards you with an L prime. What this does is line up these two pieces with these two pieces at the top to make a square. To hide this move from your audience, I hold the edge either side of the red line. As you can see, my third finger is free to push that layer down. And I do that as I give the entire cube a quarter turn to here, from here to here. The bigger movement covers the smaller one, from here to here. Now you just have to make sure that your audience is just looking at the front side. You definitely don't want to show the top side or this side here because of the blue line. It It doesn't matter so much if they get a glimpse of this side, because you can cover one of the red pieces with your thumb. So these are the two sides you can show to your audience. To perform the instant solve, your finger and thumb hold the cube either side of the red line. Your first finger pushes the top layer clockwise. Again, in other words, your first finger does a U move. At the same time, the bottom gets turned with a D move. The nail of your third finger pushes against this white tile, and it pushes the layer away from you. Again, you are pushing the bottom layer like this. And those two moves are done together, top and bottom, but at the same time. Sorry, there. Pull and push these two layers. Then the third finger reaches around and pushes these two layers up with a little L prime. Finally, your first finger pushes the top layer a quarter turn with a U move. Let's go back. U prime, little L, U prime, D prime. So this is just doing the final instant solve. Pull the top layer and push the bottom layer at the same time. The third finger then pulls two layers towards you, and finally the first finger turns the top layer with a U. Once again, the mix is U prime, little L, U prime, D prime. Then the instant solve is U and D together, little L, U. If you have a smooth speed cube, the last U move can be done before the little L move has even been completed. As cubers would say, you corner cut the last U move. Once more, but with the extra L move. And these four moves are done as you just do one shake. And that is the transformer solve. Let me introduce you to the Cyclone False Mix. Now, Kev came up with a name just to keep it on brand with the whole Transformers theme, but it's actually the very first false mix I ever came up with the Rubik's Cube about 3.5 years ago. And it's got a couple of really cool little features. For one thing, it's super easy. And it's a little bit longer, so that if you've got something to say, whilst you want to be mixing the cube, it's perfect because you're actually doing the same thing 4 times. Now, I've got a few different variations, but essentially the moves are just R2, L2, U2, R2, L2, U2, and you just do those 3 moves 4 times. Now, I'll show you this closer in a moment, but 4 times and you're back in your solved cube. And the other advantage is that you start and end in exactly the same place. And I've got a few different variations, and these variations I think make it look a bit deceptive, and you can sort of mix and match the variations. But there's also variations where you start in one place, end upside down, and then if you do it again, you end back where you started. So if you've got if you want a bit of a longer false shuffle, I'd probably use that one. And again, because of the different variations, it looks quite mixed up. It's, there's a version where you just turning the outside pieces. There's a version where you're sort of turning the 2 pieces like that. There's also a version where you're turning the center slice, which is how I first came about this, because I just learnt this center slice variation for F2L, and so I really like using that. And so if you've never done that before, this is quite a good little practice to be able to do that, because it's a great little move if you're learning certain algorithms in PLL. That's where I've used it most. So let's take a closer look at the cyclone false mix. So let me show you the mix in its most basic form, and then I'll show you the alternatives to make it look more convincing. Start from the usual blue in front, yellow on top. It's simply R2, L2 and U2 performed 4 times in a row. R2, L2, U2. R2, L2, U2. R2, L2, U2. And you notice that you end in the same place as you started, with blue in front, yellow on top. Now let me show you some different ways of making this look more random. This time start with a little R'2 followed by R2, then do a U2, repeat that little R'2, R2, U2, then do R2, L2, U2. Finally, do R2, L2, D2, and you're back in your starting position, blue in front, yellow on top. Again, little R'2, R2, U2, little R'2, R2, U2, R2, L2, U2, R2, L2, D2. This is a slight alternative to the previous mix and starts exactly the same way. Little R'2, R2, U2. Little R'2, R2, U2. R2, L2, U2, R2, and then as you finish that turn, rotate the whole cube 2 quarter turns with a Z2. Do another R2 and finish with a U2. And now you'll notice that the cube is still blue in front, but white on top and yellow on the bottom, which means that the cube is upside down. So by doing the whole sequence again, you end up back in your starting position with blue in front and yellow on top. Again, little R'2, R2, U2. Little R'2, R2, U2. R2, L2, U2, R2, Z2, R2, U2. Now you've got the white on top, do the whole sequence again, and end up back at your starting point with blue in front, yellow on top. This is the way I did it originally by using M slices, which uses the third finger to move the middle slice round. And that is known as M in cube notation. So this version starts with M2, U2, M2, U2, then R2, L2, U2, R2, L2, D2, and that one starts and ends in the same position. Again, M2, U2, M2, U2, R2, L2, U2, R2, L2, D2. This last version is similar to version 3, where you finish upside down. M2, U2, M2, U2, R2, L2, U2, R2, turn the cube with a Z2, another R2, and finish with a U2. Now you're upside down, so perform M2, U2, M2, U2, R2, L2, U2, R2, Z2, R2, U2, and you're back in your starting position. So now you know the moves, there's one final tip that I think is really, really important when doing false mixes, and that is to basically do these mixes softly. So, and I'm guilty of doing this myself, I do it wrong because I think you're just ingrained, once you're a speed cuber, just to move the cube quickly. But I think it's much better to do them gently. So rather than do So instead of that, do this, because I think there's something so much more disarming about doing these type of moves that I think it looks far more convincing. It looks casual rather than purposeful, and as soon as you do them quickly, you kind of know that you look like you know what you're doing, and they start looking like set moves. So I think that's a really important tip. The person to watch, for instance, is Stephen Brundage. Whenever you see him mix the cube, he just does it so softly, and there's a real elegance to it, rather than it being sort of quick and nimble, so to speak. So that's my tip for making these false shuffles look convincing.
Now, I don't know if you know this fact already, but the Rubik's Cube can be mixed up in over 43 quintillion possible combinations. Now, you're probably thinking, what on earth is a quintillion, right? So to put that in some kind of perspective, for every different mix of the Rubik's Cube, you could cover the Earth in Rubik's Cubes 273 layers high, which is just kind of mind-boggling, right? And regardless of whatever mix the cube is in, it took 35 computing years and some mathematicians to work out that the cube can be solved in 20 moves or less, regardless of what mix it's in. And this is called God's number, because if God was going to solve the cube, he'd do it in the most efficient way possible, right? So let me show you something. So what I'm going to get you to do is, if you can just choose a colour on the Rubik's Cube for me. Green, okay, perfect. And I'm going to get you to help me out as well. So if you can just choose another colour. Red, perfect. So you've chosen green and you've chosen red. Now, I don't know if you've seen the people who kind of like compete to solve cubes. Now obviously, it's not kind of like mixed like this and they go, yeah, it's solved. It has to be mixed up in more than 20 moves so that it's challenging, obviously, so they can't easily get to their solved cube, right? So let's try this. So I'm going to try, it was green, wasn't it? If I have a look at the cube, I can see there's some green here, green here, green here. So I think I can get to your colour green in 18 moves. Now that might not sound too impressive, but what if I said that I'll get to your colour green in 18 moves in less than 7 seconds? Yeah? So you're gonna have to be my stopwatch. When you say go, I'll go, and you can just count out loud, okay? You ready? Go. Right, I think stop. So what was that, 4 or 5 seconds? And you'll see that I have got to the colour green. Now, you're probably wondering how was I able to calculate that and get there that fast? Well, I was using this technique called cognitive mapping, and kind of similar, you might have heard like chess players where they're sort of like thinking like steps and steps ahead. It's the same with the cube, and what I'm doing is I can have a look and I can track the colours and see where the colours are. So the colour you said it was red, right? And when I can see where the red is, I can think about the moves I'm going to make and where I'm going to get to. So I think I can get to your colour red in 14 moves. Okay, so you just don't think I'm kind of like plucking random numbers out of thin air. I'm going to do this slowly. We're going to count together, okay? You ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 moves gets me to your colour red. Now, I don't know if you've heard of this thing called cognitive illusion. No? So, it's kind of like when your brain tricks you into seeing one thing when actually it's something completely different. Do you know what I mean? Let me show you. It looks something like that. And the cube just solved, right? And you're kind of wondering, was it solved before? Was it mixed before? So let me give it another mix up so that it's kind of really mixed again. And I'm going to do the same thing again. So now the cube is all mixed, and I've been solving 2 different coloured sides. So this time I'm going to try and solve the whole cube. So how long are you going to give me to solve the whole cube? Really? Alright, so I don't even think God could do it that fast. Okay, I think I'm going to try and do better though. Okay, you ready? Alright. And the cube just solves. And that is my routine cognitive illusion. Okay, so let's jump into the explanation for cognitive illusion. Now, this has got to be one of our favourite routines in the project just because it ticks so many boxes. And to perform this, all you need to be able to do is the 4-4-6 mix and the gravitational solve mix as well, okay? Everything else just kind of happens. So, I'm not going to go too much into the presentation, but I'm just going to talk about a few little tips and pointers as I go along. So for this, you're going to need to get 2 colours selected. And the first colour is a completely free choice. The second colour is going to be a somewhat restricted choice because you want them to choose a connecting colour. So for example, if the first colour chosen is the colour green, you want it to be either white or orange or yellow or red, okay? It can't be the opposite colour, which in this case would be blue. If for whatever reason, and this hasn't happened to me, and I'll explain why, but if you're doing something they do name an opposite colour, then you could go into one of the AllSpark routines using the AllSpark algorithm. So that option is available. But how do you kind of ensure that they only choose a connecting colour? So there's a couple of ways. So firstly, if they've chosen green first, if you want to kind of want it to be a bit more open and seemingly free, what I do is I just say to the other person, and if you could just name another colour on the cube. And I'm displaying the cube all around, obviously apart from the bottom, and they always choose the colour that they can see, all right? They always choose the colour they can see. So don't feel afraid to try that out. if you're kind of a little bit nervous, thinking you want it surefire, then you can use the other method where you can, after they've chosen the first colour, you put the cube in your hand like that, and you just say stop whenever you want. And when they say stop, wherever they stop, that is going to be the second colour. So a surefire way of getting a connecting colour. So once you've got the two colours selected, you're going to want to have or start with your cube in this orientation. So all I do from this position, because green was the first colour selected, I gesture to the first person to say, okay, you chose the colour green and you chose the colour orange. And that way I've just reversed the two colours. So this is my start position, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the gravitational mix, but only up until the point before I go into 2-1-1-2. So you want to practice this so you can do it whilst you're talking, otherwise there's dead time, so make sure you do that. But then we get to this position, okay, and this is where I'm 4 moves away from getting into the gravitational solve setup, all right? Now, at this point, this is where I say, I know I can get to your colour in 18 moves. And the reason being is because there's 4 moves, which is going to get me into the gravitational mix stack, and then the 4-4-6 is 14 moves. So I know 18 moves is going to get me to their colour. So just before I skip on to the next part, if you are kind of thinking at this stage, I can't remember what colours they have chosen, then don't worry, because you've got a nice reminder on the bottom of the cube. You'll see you've got a bar here, which in this instance is green. That's the first colour that was selected, and you've got the orange bar here, which is the second colour selected. Now there'll be another reminder about the second colour in a second, but I always just look at the cube and glance at it just to make sure I've remembered it is green, okay? So now I'm going to do the 18 moves. And at this point, rather than just saying, oh, 18 moves, maybe they don't think it's that impressive, even though it is, add on that little time restriction. And this was a little tip from Colin, to make it feel more impressive than just saying, oh, 18 moves, but I'm going to do it in 7 seconds. Now, the likelihood is you're going to do it in less than 7 seconds, so you've got that sort of bonus, that bonus there that they're going to seem even more impressed. So, what you're going to do is you're going to do 2-1-1-2, then you're going to go straight into the 4-4-6. So I've just done 2-1-1-2, and you'll see I'm now into my gravitational mix stack. But I'm going to go straight into the 4-4-6, okay? And as you know, that is going to keep the bottom colour solved, where the rest of the cube is now going to look mixed up. Which is lovely, because now all I'm going to do is the 4-4-6 again. That's going to get me back to the gravitational stack in a second. So at this point, a couple of things to point out is, obviously you can display this from all around, but what I like to do is I like to display the cube like this in my hands, making like this little V shape. And the reason being is because I'm going to do exactly the same display on the next phase. And this is important because on the next phase, I'm going to be in the gravitational mix state where these two sides are going to be solved. So I don't want to be doing this, because I'm going to flash a solved side here and a solved side here. So just to keep everything consistent, I like to display like this, just so that sort of burns in their memory that this is how you displayed it. Even though you can be pretty free when you pick the cube up again. Now the other thing you'll notice is that there's this little T shape at the top of the cube. So even if you kind of like not mix up the cube, but if you rotate the cube, all you've got to look for is your T to be facing you, and then this is your starting position again. And the second thing, we're now going to go into solve to their colour, and this is 14 moves because that is how many moves it is for the 4-4-6 mix. So you can be really specific in that it's going to be 14 moves. And you have got a reminder again here of your colour. There's 2 blocks at the bottom which are orange. So again, when I'm looking at this, I know if I've forgotten, the next colour is going to be orange. Now another little tip is that because this is exactly 14 moves, if you are going to be performing this and you're going to go to another group and perform it and another group, this was another tip Colin came up with, was that rather than it being exactly the same each time, you could add in an offset on the mix. So, I mean, if I wanted to make it more, I could just do an offset there. So now before I go into the 4-4-6, I need to do that, and then go into 4-4-6. That makes it 15 moves. Or before I start, just while I'm gesturing, I could do that first move, and now I'm only 13 moves away. So I'm just going to go back. So that's just a way where you can do seemingly different numbers each time. So I'm now going to go do my 14 moves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now I'm now in the position for my gravitational mixed state. So I need to just make sure I've just rotated the cube like this, so I'm not flashing any of the sides. And obviously my hands are here anyway. Just like the gravitational solve, you're going to do the rotation into your palm, and you are then in this state where you are showing the mixed cube. So you're ready to do the gravitational solve. Now, before I do that, obviously I want to display that I've solved to the orange colour. So let me just get back to where I was. So I've mixed it up, and I do this all in one motion. I do my rotation, say 40 moves, and I've got to your colour orange. Now I'm going to do the V hands again, so that I can display really nicely that I've solved to orange. And again, the reason I'm doing that is because I'm covering up the solved sides of the cube. So I can be pretty free displaying that, knowing that I'm not going to show. If you held it like this, there is a possibility you're going to flash these sides, okay? So just be cautious of that. So now I am in position where I can do the gravitational solve. And as you know, there's a number of different variations on that you can use to do that. Now, I favour the anti-gravity solve, which I definitely think it's worth your time to spend doing that. And the reason why I like it is because you're going to be in this position, you're framed here when this solves. And I think that is much nicer rather than the framing to be lower down your body. So if you're here and it solves, you can see everybody looking at the cube and at you. If you've got people taking photos or videos or whatever, then this is going to be much better than if you're holding the cube down here. If you prefer, because let's face it, if you're going to do the drop solve, it's kind of safer in a way because you've got to catch that cube. So if you're worried about that, you could do the gravity solve where you're just going to let gravity take over and it's going to fall into your hands. A couple of tips on this, again, is just let gravity do its thing. So don't do any movements to this hand. You're literally holding it here. You're just going to lift your thumb up and it's going to pivot off your finger, okay? So it's just going to fall like that. I've seen some people who go to do it, and before they go to drop it, they lift their hand up and they flash the bottom. So they do something like that. And I don't think it looks that great if you flash the bottom there before it solves. So just make sure doesn't move, your hand doesn't move, and you're literally just letting it fall. So you are then into this position, just like the gravitational solve. So now you can do the gravitational mix again, and this is going to get you back into your 2-on-1-2 stack. Okay. Now to end the routine, there's loads of options you can choose from. So you could do like a shake solve, you could do Henry Harris's recurring nightmare solve, which is taught on the RD. It's the first RD set. Can't remember what it's called now. The first RD set. It's taught on there, so check it out. You could use that. I know Colin likes that solve, but for me in this routine, I kind of wanted to keep it consistent with the cube, seemingly like going up and solving. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the 2-1-2 to solve, but I'm doing it in 2 beats. So on the first beat, I'm doing the first 2 moves, and on the second beat, I'm doing the second 2 moves, and then throwing it up into my hand. So it kind of keeps the same sort of visual as I've done with the anti-gravity solve from the mixed cube, and then going down and chucking it up your hand and solve. I just think it just looks more aesthetically pleasing, and it sort of fits in with everything else you've done. So that's it, that's the routine. Go out and have a play with it. I think this is the kind of like one routine that I think most people will end up doing, because all you need to know is 4-4-6 and gravitational, and that's all you're using throughout the whole routine. So it's just a really nice streamlined routine where you can get to one colour, the second colour really quickly, and then you can seemingly solve the cube, and then you've got that other full solve at the end. I think it just is really hard hitting. So that's it. Go and have a play with it and enjoy. Now, I don't know if you've seen these people who can solve the Rubik's Cube really fast, but do you know how they do it? No? Well, there's a number of different ways to do it, but I'll demonstrate one to you now, okay? So all I'd like you to do is just to choose a colour on the Rubik's Cube. Orange, okay, perfect. And if you could just choose another colour for me. Green, excellent. So you've chosen the colour orange and you've chosen the colour green. Now, obviously, before people try and solve the cube, it's not just mixed up in like one move, because that'd be too easy to solve. It has to be mixed up really well so that it's not too easy and it's a challenge for them to try and solve, okay? So something like this. And what happens is the cube is covered up, and they then get 10 seconds to study the cube, and whilst they're studying the cube, they're having a look at where all the colours are on the cube. So for example, if I wanted to get to your colour orange, right, I could get to your colour in 18 moves. Now, that maybe doesn't sound too impressive, so let's up the stakes a little bit, and I'll try and get to your colour in 18 moves in less than 7 seconds, okay? Now, I'm going to want you to be my stopwatch for this, so when you say go, I'm going to go, you can count out loud, alright? Okay, I'm ready. Go. Stop. That was about, what, 4 seconds, and I've got to your colour orange. Alright, now the way I actually did this, I was using this technique called cognitive mapping, and it's a little bit like if you've heard about these grandmaster chess players who, when they're playing, they're actually moves and moves and moves ahead before the competitor even gone for a move, right? And it's the same for the cube. I'm looking and tracking all of the colours in the cube when I'm mixing it up, to the point where I already know that I can get to your colour, which was green, right, in 14 moves. Now, I don't want you thinking that I'm just kind of like plucking random numbers out of thin air. So I'm going to do this slowly this time, and you can count with me, okay? 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 moves gets me to your colour green. And that's cognitive mapping. Now, that's cognitive mapping, but have you heard of cognitive illusion? No? So this is where your brain tricks you into seeing one thing when it's actually something completely different. Do you know what I mean? Look, let me show you an example. And it looks something like that, right? Yeah, it was mixed up and now it is solved. Let me show you this again, because I know that happened really fast. So I'll give the cube another good mix up, and this time, rather than trying to get to one colour, I'm going to try and solve the whole cube. So how long are you going to give me to solve the cube? 3 seconds. That's faster than world record. All right, okay, I'm going to do my best. Whenever you're ready, say go. Go. Solved. And that is my routine cognitive illusion. Whilst playing around with the gravitational solve mix, I realised that if I rotated the cube after I'd done the mix and performed the gravitational solve mix again, I could be in a situation where I had 4 sides of the cube that were mixed, but 2 sides which remained solved. And I thought this was just a really nice position to be in, and just opened up a number of possibilities in where you could take your presentation or routine. Now, for example, you could get to this position, and if I've got orange on the bottom, I could perform the 4-4-6 mix and be in the position where I can display that being the only solved colour on the cube. And if I perform the 4-4-6 again, that puts me back to where I started with the 2 colours. Now, you could display the colours like this, or you might want to display them one at a time. But the nice thing about this is that once you have got back to this position, the way I've designed this is if you perform the gravitational solve mix again, that's going to put you in the position to allow you to perform the gravitational solve, all right? So I can now get to my seemingly solved cube, but then just like my routine cognitive illusion, it puts you back into your 2-on-1-2 stack to allow you to get to your solved cube. So I think that's a nice little touch and addition, and allows you to have other presentations other than the one for cognitive illusion. So let's have a look at my take on it for my routine convergence. Now, some people think you need to be a genius to be able to solve the Rubik's Cube, but in reality, that's not entirely true. You just need to have spent some time memorizing the moves and looking at the patterns on the cube. And a lot of people who start out will go online and try and find how to do it. And there's some really good resources, but there are some really, really bad resources. For example, I've seen quite a few videos on YouTube whereby somebody will say, if you follow these steps, it doesn't matter how mixed your Rubik's Cube is, just keep doing these over and over again, and you'll finally get to your solved cube. And they will show a video of them going, hey look, here's my mixed cube, and they'll follow that algorithm and they'll get to their solved cube. And this is completely fake. They have just written down how they've mixed it up, and then they just unmix it, okay? Because in reality, the Rubik's Cube can be mixed up in over 43 quintillion possible combinations, which is a number so unimaginable that it would be impossible just to have a few steps to repeat through all of those combinations. So if you want to learn, you're going to have to learn the standard method where you start off solving just one side of the cube. So if you were going to start solving the cube, what colour would you go for first? Green. Okay, cool. So let's imagine you've got the green done then. And a lot of people can do this without knowing any of the moves. So would you start next on the white or the red or the orange or the orange? Okay. Now, I'm going to let you into a little secret, another algorithm. And this algorithm is called the Devil's Child. And the Devil's Child, you'll be happy to know, isn't trillions and trillions of moves long, but what it is going to do is allow me to keep mixing the cube, and at some point I will get to a solved side of the cube. And I think I'm there now. Can you see I've now got to one solved side of the cube? And that was the colour you're going to start with, right? Green. But the Devil's Child's sneaky, because the Devil's Child doesn't allow you just to get to green, it also allows you to get to orange as well. Now, I spoke a lot about the Devil's Child and the Devil, but I haven't mentioned much about the big guy. You know who I'm talking about, God, right? Now, if he was going to solve the cube, he would use the most efficient method possible. And if he was going to solve the cube, I think it would look something like that. Crazy, right? Now, obviously I'm not God, but I am a magician, so if I was going to solve the cube, I want to do it in a magical way. So I would do it something like that. And that is my routine convergence. Convergence is a really nice way to be able to get two solved sides of the cube whilst the rest of the cube remains mixed. Now, you could use the method that I'm going to teach you now to perform cognitive illusion, but I'm sure you'll come up with your own routines or your own way to utilize this move. So the first version I'm going to teach you now uses the gravitational solve and the 1-2-2-1 mix to be able to do this. So stuff you have already learnt, and then I will show you afterwards a way that you can get straight into having two sides of the cube solved and the rest mixed. So let's have a look at this method first. So let's say, for example, I've got two colours that have been chosen, in this instance red and green. Okay, so the first colour I'm going to reveal is green, so that needs to be on the left hand side, and the second colour is going to be on the back. So I'm just going to remember the top colour is yellow. Even though this hasn't been selected, I'm going to need to remember this in a second. So the first stage is to go into the gravitational solve mix, and I'm now ready to perform my 2-1-1-2. So 2-1-1-2, I do my rotation like in a normal gravitational solve, but this is the difference now, because now I want the yellow side, which was on top originally, facing me. And I also don't want to flash any of the solved sides to the audience because they can see all of the mixed sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come across, I'm going to re-grip, and I'm going to rotate the cube so I can see the yellow side. Just being careful not to rotate too fast so that my audience sees red. This hand is covering the left hand side, so that's all good. When I've got to this position, I'm going to go straight back into another gravitational solve mix, which gets me here. And then if I perform 2-1-1-2 now, you'll see that I've got two solved sides of the cube and the rest of the cube is mixed, which is a really nice position to be in. So you could then display that you've solved two sides of the cube which are their named colours. What I would prefer to do, I think would be nicer, is from this position I would display the green side. So I would come across, put my thumb here, rotate the cube and display to the audience the first colour, which is the green side. And this thumb is providing the perfect cover so that I'm not going to flash the red. What I'd do then is I would then display that I've also solved the red side, but I'm going to make this look a bit more magical so that it looks like it's kind of changing it. So there's a number of options. The one that I think would work best is if your hand comes down like this and you drop the cube into your other hand, and the audience can now see the red side and they've just can see mixed cube all the way around. Okay, so that's one option. The other option is to drop it the opposite way, so the cube's going to fall down like that and it leaves you in the same position, displaying the red to the audience for the second colour. So once you're in this position, what's going to happen is you're going to rotate the cube around, so red's now on top, green is on the left hand side but being covered by your hand, and going to perform the gravitational mix again. Now this is where we would normally perform the 2-1-1-2 mix, and it's very similar, but we're going to do 2, 1, 1, but we're not going to do 2 again, because if I did 2 again, that's going to flash to my audience the top of the cube. But if I perform an R prime, that's going to put me into this position where they're just seeing the mixed cube. Now my X is on top, so I'm going to do my rotation move, and now I'm in the perfect position to do my gravitational solve, however you're going to choose to do that. So that is going to end up with the cube in this position where your audience can see the 3 solved sides of the cube, but given the illusion that the cube's solved. And then you'll notice here's my X again. So I'm in the perfect position here to go back into the gravitational solve again. I'm now in my 2-1-1-2 stack, 4 moves away from my solved cube. So I hope you like that little variation, and I'm sure you'll come up with lots of ideas of how you could use the 2 colours in a routine. Now, if you're up for a challenge and you would like to learn a new algorithm that is going to get you straight into a stack that will allow you to reveal one colour and then another, and then go into your gravitational solve, then this version of convergence is for you. Now, there's a couple of differences to point out. So, like the other methods, we're going to get some colours selected, and again they need to be 2 attaching colours. So let's say, for example, we have had selected green and yellow. Now the first colour, green, is going to go face down onto your palm, and your second colour, in this example yellow, is going to be facing you. So this is the starting position, and we're going to reveal green first, followed by yellow. So let's have a look at the algorithm step by step. So we're going to start with a B prime, U2, B, L2, U2, B2, R2, U2, B2, D prime, B, R, D, L, U prime, R2, B prime, U prime, B2, and then an L. And this is the stack ready to perform. Now you'll notice that the bottom, which was green, that is solved. So straight away you can go and show your audience that you have solved the first selected colour, which is green. Now the second colour, which is yellow, you'll see you've got a nice block here just to remind you, and the rest of the cube is all looking mixed. Now from this position I can perform 446, and that is going to solve the yellow side. So now you can display to your audience the yellow side, and there's various ways in which you can do this reveal. You just need to make sure that before we finish and go back, the cube needs to be orientated so the green is facing the audience and the yellow's on top. So in this version, really you need to be showing that you've got their 2 colours solved and the rest of the cube is mixed. So this is our position so that we can go back. So now I'm going to do the gravitational mix. So let's get into that and rotate, ready to do my 2-on-1-2. Now this is one of the key differences. Now normally if you're doing the gravitational solve mix, you're going to rotate your hand like this and do 2 on 1 2, because these 3 sides are going to be the ones that looked mixed. Whereas in this version, you're going to be rotating your hand this way slightly, because these are the 3 sides which are going to be mixed. So it's going to look like this: 2 1 1 2, and we've got our 3 mixed sides, and we've now got our 3 solved sides. Now the nice thing about this is that it's put you in the position where you don't need to do any rotation. So normally doing a gravitational solve you need to do this, but because of the way that we've just orientated and mixed it, you can go straight into your gravitational solve. So let's imagine I've done that, and I'm now displaying to my audience a seemingly solved cube, and you'll notice my X is here on the left hand side. So I can grab the cube, do the gravitational mix again, and that's going to set me up to do 2 on 1 2, and you'll notice I'm now just 4 moves away from my solved cube, like that. So even though there's a new algorithm to learn, I think there's a few nice touches with this version, but I'll leave that for you to decide. But having 2 sides of the cube solved, I think, is just a really nice visual, and having the rest of the cube mixed. So have a play around with that and see what you can come up with.